Thank you. Thank you very much for the welcoming address. I have to say something organizational as well, because Gavin Wood from Parity Technologies can't be with us. He has a flu and he is so ill he couldn't fly in from London. But he has sent us his deputy, the COO of Parity, Jutta Steiner. She is stepping in for him and she will fly in this morning. I hope she will be here then at noon. So we start the conference with something a little bit special. In a world which is more and more globalized and integrated, it's getting more and more difficult to diversify investments. So some people think investing in art would be a good idea because art has different cycles, is a special market. So art could be sort of a natural hedge for investors. But is it really a good idea? Is investing in art, from an investor's point of view, really a good idea? Or should only people who have some knowledge about art really invest in art? We can discuss this now with an expert, which I'm very happy that he is here. He's Dr. Bertold Müller from Christie in Zürich. He's managing director of Christie Zürich since 2012. An applause for him, and please come up on stage. Mr. Müller, first, how would you describe the art market of 2017? Are the prices going up now? Is it a good time to invest?
That's a very good question. Maybe I should start with saying that, as in any other branch, we don't have a crystal ball. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to predict
Forecasts are always difficult.
What is happening. But maybe if you allow me to put things a bit more in a context, it will help us assess where we are. And it might be also helpful in getting a bit of an outlook for at least a month to come. Since the financial crisis, the art markets, and I'm always using the plural, but maybe this we touch upon a bit later in any case, the art markets had a steady recovery, much more exponential than anyone had assumed. This all culminated in 2014, 2015 with unprecedented sales around the globe. In 2015, all the world records were broken. The record for the most valuable work of art ever sold at auction, a Picasso for 179 million. A world record for any work of art ever sold, probably. This is a bit more difficult to assess since it doesn't happen in the public domain, but a work from a Basel-based collection that sold for almost 300 million, purportedly. The most expensive sculpture, and so on and so forth. In 2016, however, one could see that there was a bit more of a reluctancy to consign at the highest level works of art, and this resulted in a certain drop in terms of the size of the art markets.
And a drop in the prices as well?
Not that much. It's a very good point that you're raising. If you're in a crisis, for instance, you would see not just a contraction of the size, but you would see a drop of the sale prices and also a drop of the sell-through rates, which is an important indicator for us to see how strong the market is, whether there's just one person bidding on a work of art, whether 8 or 9 persons are bidding on the same work of art, whether out of 100 works of art offered at auction, 50 get sold, 80 get sold, 95 get sold. So these are the kind of indicators one could see. And none of that happened in 2016. So I don't think the art markets went into crisis mode, not at all. It was still a healthy market. And in 2017, in the first quarter, we had probably 2 points where one could see or assess where we stand. And one is the sale season in March in London, with the major post-war contemporary and impressionism and modern sales, and one is the TEFAF, the first major art fair that took place in Q1. And
so these are the two important conferences or the two important auctions, and how was the result?
If you look at what the competitors and we did, you could see that it was much healthier than last year, much more lively. You could see there was a lot of bidding and action in the room. You could see that there were many world records achieved again. So it really felt very, very healthy. And the same I understand, happened during TFAF. So there was a lot of traction, a lot of visitors, a lot of interest. So I think it's fair to say that as of now, it's quite a reassured market.
So the market is quite solid, but you said from the financial crisis on it went up, but first it went down a little bit, or quite a lot.
Absolutely. What one could see in the aftermath of the financial crisis is that there was a proper contraction of the market.
So that was 2008, 2009.
2009.
It was the same time when the economy crashed worldwide, and the financial crisis we had.
Yes, I think it's fair to say, I know that some people claim that the art markets have no correlation whatsoever to the stock markets or the world economy. I don't think that this is fair to say. There is a correlation whenever there's uncertainty in the market, and that this may also explain that in 2016 there was not the height of the market with the Brexit vote, with the presidential election, with oil prices moving, with the Chinese economy not performing as well as one would have thought. As soon as there is a certain uncertainty, it also affects the art markets. Maybe not to the same extent as other markets, because you will, if you're a passionate collector, you think in lifetime cycles, and if the object you really want surfaces in a downturn of the economy, you will still bid. And in a downturn of the economy, you will also have distressed sellers who will sell. So it doesn't come to a halt, but it will follow the waves and cycles of the stock market.
So you would say we have the cycles, and the correlation is, there is more and more correlation between the business cycle of the world economy and the art cycle, the art market cycle.
I think that's fair to say. If you look at the waves we've seen, if you look at the graph of the art markets and the size of it, if you can assess it properly, you can see that it certainly went up altogether in the past 20, 30 years. But you can see that there's a drop after Black Friday 1989 or Internet bubble 2001, financial crisis. So you can follow these cycles. It was claimed always that there's a certain delay of 6 months or the like. I'm not prepared to believe that this still holds true. If tomorrow there's a financial crisis, we will see that probably in the art markets as well.
So then you would say it's not a good hedge to be in the art market and hedge so the financial risks of the other markets, the stock market.
Well, I would love to claim that's the case and encourage you all to bid in our next auction. Yes, of course.
Unfortunately, it's not like that.
Well, there are two sides of the coin. What I just described, I think, is fair. You see the waves as well. But then on the other hand, at the end of the day, it is a real, tangible asset. If you buy a piece of jewelry, it is something that you have. If you take as example, for instance, a Rembrandt that has never lost its intrinsic value over 400 years, and I'm prepared to believe with the next inflation or the next economic crisis or the next war, God forbid, I think the Rembrandt will not lose its value. So there is a certain way of storing value in a masterpiece, but whether it serves for hedging purposes, I'm not sure.
You're not sure. So you would say, as an art buyer, one must be a lover of art, or you can be just another investor? Or do one really have to be a lover of art?
I'm prepared to believe that most of the clients we deal with are true passionate art lovers. They really care about it. They inform themselves. They go to exhibitions. They
because if the prices go down, you still have a Rembrandt. Huh?
You still have your Rembrandt
to watch.
We refer to this as the emotional dividend. So you always have something to look at. It's more difficult to have your share certificate put against the wall. So yes, you have that. That's for sure. I don't think that you should just buy works of art in order for investment purposes. I really think that the starting point always has to be that you need to be truly inspired by the works of art you buy, and then if on top of that a work of art keeps its value or even increases its value, all the better. But I think the starting point should always be a true love and passion for the art.
Let's talk a little bit about the specialities of this market, because it's much more complex than the stock market, is it? What are the specialities of the art market? Which things we should really look at?
Yeah. The main differences, I would say, and these are key factors if you want to try and look at it from an investment point of view, is that it's very difficult to assess how much a work of art is worth. That's one thing. The other thing is...
So you need experts, you need somebody like you.
You need better experts than myself. And you need a diversity of experts. So if you come to me tomorrow with an illuminated handscript of the 15th century, we would ask an expert who only is in the know for this particular field. But even these experts, it's difficult for them to assess what the true value of a work of art is. Pierre-Auguste Renoir once said that the only indication of the price of a work of art is in the auction room when the hammer goes down. Then at least you have a reference point to what a work of art sold for on a particular day, in a particular place, in a particular moment, in a particular setup. It's no confirmation that the day after you will get the same results, or even the same day in a different place. So whereas in stock markets you know exactly what it's worth and you can sell it the next day, with works of art, it's different. You don't exactly know what it's worth, and it's very difficult.
Find somebody who will buy.
It may be very difficult to sell, and it may take more time than just having a format where you can sell and buy immediately.
So you need experts. Experts are expensive, so this makes it even more expensive.
What you're referring to is probably the transaction costs one has, and it's fair to say that buying art, holding art, and selling art is quite expensive. So if you look at it from a return on investment point of view, even if you bought something at 1,000 and you sold it 5 years later at 1,200, your return might not have been that great. So you need to take into account all the costs that are associated with buying, holding, and selling works of art.
Mm-hmm. You've said there are, of course, different kinds of art. Which kind of art is now especially popular? Mm-hmm. The old 15th, 16th, 17th, Rembrandts and so on, or contemporary art? Or what is popular?
If we look at the developments in the past years, maybe since the year 2000, you could see that there was quite a bit of a shift in terms of the interest put on the various categories towards post-war and contemporary works of art. This may have different reasons. If you have a post-war contemporary work of art, it might be easily understood throughout the globe, whereas if you have the martyrdom of a Saint Sebastian of the 16th century, it may not make everyone's boat float around the globe. So I think it's fair to say that the main focus was on post-war contemporary. Having said that, if you have a masterpiece, if you have a truly amazing work of art, there has been a lot of interest no matter the category. So for instance, a category that's quite down might be Baroque furniture. When you bought something 20 years ago and you've tried to sell it now, you lose a zero at the end of the price tag. But if you had the most beautiful work of art, work of furniture, the badminton cabinet, for instance, it might have doubled or tripled its value since. So it really depends. If you look at categories, probably as a generalization, yes, 20th century works of art, flat art, might have been the winner of the past few years or the decades. But then again, if you look at what kind of works of art in general are moving upwards in terms of prices, that the divide and the gap between the middle market, we call it, and the masterpieces has widened in the past years, notwithstanding the field.
Nowadays we have a global economy, we have also a global art market now, which means that a lot more people come into this market because we have middle classes now in China, we have middle classes in India and so on. Are they interested in art as well? Are they the new buyers, the future buyers?
Yes, absolutely. That's a trend that we can see. You mentioned China, Middle East, Russia could be mentioned as well. These were places where in former years private ownership of works of art might not have been at the forefront of everyone. And now there has been quite a bit of movement and quite a bit of development in this respect. And we've seen an influx of many new buyers from emerging economies, and this trend will continue to be so. A, for reasons of globalization you just mentioned, and B, and this might be interlinked to globalization, is also the digitalization that really democratizes.
So there is also a digitalization in the art market.
I think that's one of the key drivers that we've seen in the past few years.
What means that, digitalization?
Very
because
good
the
point.
art, the picture is still the picture in the real world, isn't it?
If we look at it from our auction house model, for instance, that might be a good example. The first option we have is we reach, by way of having digitalized catalogs, we reach a much larger audience than we did in former days.
So you don't print catalogs anymore?
We still do at high costs, but we have all of that digitalized. So in former days, there was a small class who had received catalogs that were even engaging within an auction. Now you can browse it wherever, and it's
everybody
really free
can
for
see
everyone.
it on the internet.
Then you can bid in an auction by way of pressing a button on your iPhone or on your computer, and then we can see that people are bidding from Starbucks. I shouldn't do any advertising here. I'm no coffee drinker anyway, but you can see that they press the button wherever they are.
So the auctions nowadays are online? Or
that's even the next step.
With online participation.
So what I now meant was the bidding in a live auction by way of pressing a button. That's called, with us, Christie's Live. Then the next step, and that's what you refer to now, is proper online auctions, where you do not have a setting like this here, with the audience here and the rostrum and someone putting down the hammer. And we started this in 2011 with the jewels of Elizabeth Taylor at the time, and that was the only online sale we had in 2011, and this grew substantially over the years, and last year we had, I believe, 120 online auctions already in 1 year, so that's certainly something that is developing.
And what kind of people are taking part? Everybody from everywhere? Or?
We had participants, believe it or not, it's like the United Nations of Art, from 184 countries bidding online last year in our sales. So it's literally around the globe that people are participating. And what is even more important in terms of what you mentioned, is it growing, is the buyer base growing? 1/3 of the people who bid in an online auction with us had never bid before. So they are new clients.
So a completely new public is coming
yes.
to your auctions. But if a completely new public is coming, more buyers, potential buyers are there, then the prices should go up. Anyway.
If it were that simple, that would be excellent. I think generally, if we look at the years to come, I believe that there will be a further growth of in the art markets and maybe also in prices. Because there will be more people engaging, more people collecting, more people interested in art. We can see that at fairs, you can see that at museum entrance visits, you can see that with the gallery scene and how it developed, also in auction houses. There will be more of that, and I think as a necessity, there will be more collectors, higher prices, but this will certainly not go in a straight line, but this will follow cycles.
We'll have cycles as well, but the general trend is going up, would you say?
In terms of the size of the markets, yes, I believe there will be more to see, and this will most likely also be followed by prices. Whether this affects all the categories or just some, whether this affects masterpieces or all the works of art, that's a different story. We always need to take into account and remember that most of the works of art one buys will never even experience a secondary market. So when I went to wash my hands here, there was quite a nice exhibition of works of art on the walls. If you buy something from these works of art, it is unlikely that you will be able to resell them. So it's difficult to say the art markets will grow, prices go up. It will always be selectively, and as a lawyer, I would tell you, it depends.
It depends. Okay. Do you have any questions to Mr. Müller? Take the opportunity to ask him, because he's really an expert and is really a specialist in art auctions and investments in art. Is there any question? We can give it to Mr. Müller. I don't see it really here. Yes, we have two questions.
Well, this is a question related more to the way the people bring the money to the market. Do you have some restrictions in terms of money laundering? Because in other sectors of the financial markets, we are fighting money laundering. And do you have some restrictions? How you checked all these people who come to the market and bid for one special piece, that this money is not coming from, because I can imagine that some of the price increases come because you can put money that is not so clean as you can put it in the financial markets.
I'm very glad actually that you raised this point, and I can assure you that yes, there are a lot of checks and balances in place. We have a compliance system that is mirroring what other players do as well in the financial industry. So if you want to bid with us, no matter how you want to bid with us, you have to register first. And in order to register, we do the KYC checks, copy of passport, utility bills, and all of that that's needed. Then there's a whole process behind the scenes that's going on. You check against the world, check databases, and so on and so forth. Quite apart from this, there's also the question on the works of art, and we need to do the due diligence on the works of art as well. Have they been stolen? Have they been looted? And all these questions that may arise. So we check the art loss databases, the art loss register, and all of that. And it's very important that this is done in a very diligent way. So yes, a lot of checks in this area.
I think this was really an interesting question, because normally if you have a picture, you're not really sure who was the owner before, and is it genuine? So you always have to check all these things, and this makes it very expensive.
Yes, we have a whole pre-sale due diligence checklist of points that need to be ticked off before a work of art is included in a sale. And this includes the provenance research that you just alluded to. So we will try to figure out as much information as possible on the history of the painting or the work of art, plus the history of the previous owners. And in some cases, you can track it back until the 16th century. And in other cases, it's more difficult to see the whole provenance.
And when it's controversial, you don't take the picture.
If it's controversial, if there's a red flag, you don't do it. If you simply do not have the information, but you don't have any red flag that something could be wrong, the advantage of a public auction is that you put it in a catalog, you put it in an auction, and it's in public. So in terms of looted art, for instance, from the Third Reich, it facilitates heirs of owners at the time to see whether a work of art surfaces the art markets, and therefore it is actually a good means for people to gather information if something is sold in an auction sphere.
I think there was another question here. Yes.
You mentioned that more auctions are being held in a digital way online. So I just a queer idea. What do you think about that auction houses could be replaced by robo-advisors?
Well, personally, that would be quite a pity, I must say. No, joking apart, it's a valid point. Since we do not advise on investment in itself, but we try to advise on the works of art, whether they're in good condition or not so much, whether they are from the best period of an artist or not. This, I would have thought, is maybe a bit difficult to assess from a mere statistic and numerical point of view. It still needs your eye in order to check it. However, I think there will be other fields where robot advisory might come into place. If you look at the authenticity of a work of art, and if you have all the information gathered, it might be easier for a computer program to assess, after having scanned, for instance, a work of art, whether indeed it is authentic or it might not be. So I don't think that the specialist and expert will completely be replaced, but maybe it will be an added layer to it, as in medicine or in other fields.
But we are not there yet. You don't
no,
have
I don't think so.
A robo program
no,
with you. Okay.
Not to my knowledge, no.
This would be a little bit the future then, perhaps. Other question is here, and then here.
Thank you. I have a question regarding investment in art. Would you sponsor and invest into some investment vehicle like a mutual fund that invests in art? If you would, what would be the criteria you would look at? And if you would not, why?
It's a very good point. And I'm stating here just my personal views, not any other views. I think as a starting point, you should be interested in the work you buy, and then you should have it on your wall and you should enjoy it. If it's merely about participating in a diversified risk, I'm not quite sure whether this is the right starting point. Then what makes me think that this is a difficult endeavor is the costs associated with running such a vehicle, and also what is very difficult in the art markets is if you have to sell at a certain point. It might not be the best point in time to sell a work of art, but maybe you need to in order to pay out some investors. And what we've seen is that there have been quite a few attempts, but only a few, I believe, have been very successful. So I would, if I were to invest in works of art, then I would rather do it on individual pieces and try to build a great collection that is coherent in itself, rather than try and do an indirect investment. But that's just my personal views.
Okay, where do you put your money in? Only art or also stock market?
Another conditional question. If I were in the position to invest,
okay.
No, I do. I'm no collector.
Yeah.
I have guarded along the way one or the other work of art by befriended artists or artists that I came to love, but it's never an investment character. So at the utmost, I will be, or my heirs at some point will be able to resell some of that at prices I paid, I guess. But these are not the kind of works that will explode and
so it's not an
make me happy once
just...
I'm replaced by a robot advisor that I don't have a job anymore.
Okay. Good. Next question here. Oh, the microphone, or are you? Okay, there. We don't see it from here very well.
I was wondering if you have any specific region, globally speaking, that are leading the interest for your business.
It's also a very good question, which we're trying to find out on a daily basis. But I think it's fair to say that what we've seen in the past few years is that the growth and the movement in Asia has substantially driven the art markets. So there are a lot of buyers now in Asia, not just in China or Hong Kong, Taipei, but also in Indonesia and other places. So I think this has been one of the key drivers if you look back from a regional point of view. Overall, it's still the US and Europe, apart from what I just described, that are very important regions and players in the art markets.
And are they interested in the same kind of art, or are there big differences, cultural differences between the buyers, what they buy, what they are interested in?
We usually refer to this as a home bias. So many people
there's a home bias as well, like with stocks. We also
yes,
have a home bias.
Many people tend to buy what they've grown up with, what they understand. So I think for an Anker or the Hodler, the main audience will remain to be in Switzerland, and this is not all of a sudden the most favorite artist in Singapore.
In China and Singapore, okay.
So there will be a certain home bias. Having said that, and with the globalization we've seen, there are a lot of works of art that are globally traded. So you can buy, you can sell a Picasso wherever you want to sell it. So even in mainland China, we sold Picassos, and that works very well.
Okay. There was another question here. You see it not very good here. And here.
Yeah.
Yes. The microphone.
Okay. This is slightly off topic. It's.
No, we have. Yeah. Sorry, we're coming to you as well, but we have the microphone here now.
Slightly off topic, but in the news we hear about looting of art out of the war-torn regions in the Middle East, for example. Who's buying, and how do transactions take place of looted art? Thank you.
It's a very good point and very much spot on. I cannot judge for the art markets themselves. What I can do is try to take up how we try to deal with this issue, because we really want to avoid that any of these looted art works will ever come up in our auctions. So we really try hard to avoid that in terms of the pre-sale due diligence we apply. And for works from this region, it means, for instance, that if you consign a work, you need to establish a provenance that is at least pre the year 2000, if my recollection is right. So you need to establish that a work of art had left the countries in the Middle East in the last century or millennium, I'd rather say. And if you can't establish this by way of documents you provide, then you will not be able to sell it.
Thank you very much for this question. Here we have a question.
Yeah, yes, to link up with the technology session, you indicated that the market is broadening to the internet, many new buyers and so on. How do you verify that the bidders are legitimate bidders, not only in a know your customer sense, but also have the means and have a deposit and so on, and how are you coping with that?
Yes, we do. For first-time bidders, we usually do ask for references, bank references, if the amount they want to bid is in excess of a certain threshold. Having said that, if a buyer at the end of the day really pays, or if he doesn't, even if he has the means, it's always another matter. So you're never 100% sure that someone who raises his or her hand in an audience, whether it is live or online, will at the end of the day pay. So that's one of the risks associated. Needless to say, one would never hand out an object of art prior to the price being paid in full. So you either have the money or you still have the work of art as a consignor.
Thank you very much. Then we have the next question.
How
one last
often
one.
are you confronted with forgeries? How often does that happen per year?
It's also a very good question, and one that is really at the core of the art markets. I can't tell you in numbers, but what I can tell you is, of course, that it is a true issue that one needs to look into, and therefore the art markets have established certain procedures in order to try and prevent that forgeries are being sold. So you would have internal and external experts, you would do certain searches, you would do the provenance research and all of that. Having said that, we all know that it happens. We all know about the Beltracchi case, for instance. I mean, it does happen that forgeries come to the market. It does happen that forgeries are in an exhibition, even in a museum show, but I can't really assist in terms of providing any numbers.
So you're saying the industry is doing really a lot to prevent that? Enough?
A lot, yes. Enough. That's a very good point. What does it mean enough? I mean, enough. It would be if you can prevent it 100%. This will not be easy. So there's
the case probably.
It's in some cases probably quite difficult.
One last question. Yes, because
it's a follow-up question. So
yeah.
Here. What is the most expensive forged art you sold?
Interesting.
Probably one I don't know. I can't tell you. I literally doesn't know. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. When will be the next big auction for you? Important auction, which will give an indication of the state of the market?
The next big season of sales will be in May in New York. Again, with the two main categories, post-war and contemporary works of art, and Impressionism and modern. And what one can already see and say is that there is a lot of excellent material that will be sold during this week. At what prices? We will see then.
We will see in May. So this will be very important to have then the indication of the year. Thank you very much that you have been here. I think it was very interesting. An applause for him. Thank you very much. So I think this was an interesting insight into a market which is not so much in the spotlight every day as, for example, the stock market or other financial markets. So now we change the subject from arts to, yes, perhaps we stay in the same subject because now we are discussing the problem of wealth and wealth inequality. Wealth inequality has become a major topic in economic literature during the last years because inequality on a global basis worldwide has reached dangerous levels. And then still we live in a world of technological innovation, and the technological innovation has also some wealth effects. Because in the digital world, some people would say there are a lot of winners, but there are also a lot of losers. So I think the driver of inequality, the drivers are still there and are going on. So what should we do about income and wealth inequality? Is it an important problem or is it not so important for the economy and for our society? So we have here now somebody who has really made a lot of research about that, and I'm very happy that he is here. He's Professor Robert Hunter Wade. He's a political economy and development scholar. He's currently professor of political economy and development at the Department of International Development at the London School of Economics. He has come from London to give us now the keynote speak. I'm very happy that he is here. Please welcome Professor Wade. Hello.